This is the 10 best gold farms of the week. Let us begin. Coming in at number 1 is a thoroughly read copy of Natpagel's Guide to Extreme Angling. This one is located within the instance of Dire Maul, and where you're going to be wanting to do is you're going to be wanting to either go into either north, east, west of those dungeons. Inside of this dungeon you have a chance of receiving a dusty tome, which is located on one of the floors. For me, I like to go to the northern side and go through that. I usually get a hold of Natpagel's Guide really easily with this one by just running in, beelining it, and just going around and trying to see if the dusty tome has spawned. Obviously you have other different ways in trying to find it, however with this dusty tome I just found that this is the most effective way in order to farm this one up. I remember doing this one back in Legion when it comes towards the Legion artifact item for Paladins to get a hold of the corrupted Ashbringer appearance. Now the thing with this one is it still fetches a pretty penny on the auction house and still goes for roughly around about anywhere from around about 15,000 gold all the way up to about 40,000 gold for this item. And with that being said, it's just one of those easy ones to get a hold of, especially if you're trying to get a hold of this item, as it has on Wowhead a 86% chance of being obtained from a dusty tome. Now typically within about 10 runs of doing Dire Maul North, I can usually get about 1 to 2 depending on RNG as a factor. However, it doesn't take all that long in order to stockpile a load of these dusty tomes up. This is a nice little side gold farm, especially if you are doing quick log gold farms, because this will take you roughly around about 15 to 20 minutes depending on whether or not you have a speed set, and other than that it is obtainable by any other character in the actual game, so do not worry about doing it on a specific class, you can do it on any class. Now jumping into Hellfire Ramparts, when we were actually farming up a load of data, expanding the transmog farms on Worth It, one of my gold runners actually found an oldie but a goodie gold farm. This is the Hellfire Ramparts gold farm. This is primarily a transmog gold farm, and at this moment in time, looking at the data right now, it is around about 75k's worth of looted items to sell in the auction house with transmog. Ideally you get quite a lot of TBC based transmog from this, and is a great way in order to stockpile because it takes you about 20 minutes or less depending on whether or not you have a speed set, and that means that you can do this as a quick log because it takes you that less time in order to do. All you do is just beeline it round, gather up all the mobs, burn them down, jump down, and then reset the instance, run back in and rinse and repeat until you are locked out. The items are all pretty much grey. You do have a chance of getting a hold of some blue items with this, but realistically when it comes towards these items you're looking for the specific TBC items, things like the War Scythe, which is currently going for around about 20 odd K, and with other different types of items this just stockpiles and pads out the auction house very nicely if you're trying to get into transmog. If you are starting with transmog, this is a very easy gold farm in order to do. It's great for padding out the auction house, and it is one of my top picks for just getting started, especially if you're trying to get a hold of TBC based transmog in order to pad that expansion out with their items. It's that and another one which is on this list. Alongside that, Jin, you did a great job farming this data up for Worth It, and I'll be logging it into the next update. If anyone else wants to help, as a side note, you're more than welcome to come over towards the Discord, have a look at any of the group farms. We just need an hour from one of you at least, and then we can find out, and then we can add that towards the average portfolio, and then we can then add that to the add-on, making it better and more data. Now this one was put forward to me by one of my patrons, and this is Jonas. Basically the young Crocolisk gold farm within Oldham is still a viable method. I thought that this one was bugging out a bit too much back in the day, so I went over and checked it out. This one actually is still very viable, especially when it comes towards just standardized farming. You go straight to the bottom hand side of the map and you click on the eggs of the Crocolisks, and what happens is a load of them will jump on you, and then you just slay them with an AoE ability and then just skin them. I highly recommend using Dark Moon Firewater Potion, and it has to be in pre ends off invasion, so you're going to need to speak to Zordormi before you actually do this gold farm. However, you can increase the gold by adding in the potion of treasure finding, which is a cataclysm based potion which you can just buy off the auction house for about 80 odd gold, and it gives you a lot of materials to go with this gold farm. As you're slaying so many of these mobs at one time, you should always get something extra out of it if you can, and this is what it will do best. Following on to that, this gold farm is fairly easy in order to do. There is a couple of nests which do bug out, and you'll find that out very quickly, so just avoid them as soon as they bug out, and just stick to the ones on the outside of the area. Those ones tend to not bug out at all, so that is brilliant, as the respawn rates on these are incredibly fast, especially because it was connected to an old quest, and that means that we can just jump between the 2 or 3 of those nests and just burn them down, skin, get that savage leather, get the other materials from the potion, from the treasure chests, and then sell those on the auction house. As they're all materials, they're going to sell incredibly fast with the regional auction house merge, and that means we get more gold faster in our bags. Now, jumping over at number 4, we have the Sandworm Meat. Now, this one is from vanilla-based cooking primarily, and you're going to be wanting to go over towards Silithus. Here, you're going to be wanting to go to Big Sword and speak to Zordormi in Silithus. She's right at the entrance of the zone if you were not on a flying mount and you had to go through Ongoro Crater. Once you've spoken to her, she will be able to turn it back to normal, and you'll be able to find this area on the map right now to farm up these dredge strikers. These worms, the big old worms, just take out anyone you see. They all have a chance of dropping sandworm meat, which is at around about 37% chance of dropping. They also have a chance of dropping oozing bags at 8%, which can contain the disgusting oozling battle pet, as well as all of that, and the breath of wind, which also goes for a decent chunk of gold on the auction house at 12%. Ideally, you're going for the sandworm meat, and that does add up very nicely, especially if you're trying to build out a decent portfolio for gold farming. This gold farm in particular is very good. It's just one of those ones where you're literally just killing mobs, and the respawn rate is fairly good, depending, as this is a old world vanilla based zone, and because it's a material, it sells rather well. The funny thing is about sandworm meat is that it sells from anywhere from around about 17 gold all the way up to like 50 gold depending, and it's really great, especially if you're trying to just build out a nice amount of gold really fast. This one is well worth your time in order to check out, as I've seen not many people actually covering this one, and it works incredibly well. So I may need to work towards meat and opening up a meat module within Worth It as well. Now, coming in at number 5, we have the Throne of the Fourth Winds. This one takes you roughly around about 2 to 3 minutes in order to complete, and it's a raid that can be done once per week per character. That means if you have an alt army, this works incredibly a lot better, as you have a chance of getting a hold of the drafty battle pet and also the Zephyrian Prince battle pet. These ones tend to have a really good sell rate. Along with that, if you level them up to 25, you'll get the best bang for your buck, and it is server dependent, so I would definitely go into raid pets within Worth It and just check it out beforehand before doing it, because it really does vary on the battle pet price. At this moment in time, for me, this battle pet at level 25 is going for a few thousand gold, and that really works out quite well, especially when it comes towards something that takes me roughly around about 2 minutes per character. The gold obtained for that is very good if it scales out very nicely over a given week for the time that I'm spending on getting a hold of that battle pet. However, leveling up can be a little bit tricky, but I just like to wait till squirt day, power level tons of battle pets, and then sell those on the auction house for a decent chunk of gold also. From that, let's move on to our next one, which is the Manats gold farm, which it goes in tandem with Hellfire Ramparts. This is a TBC based transmog gold farm, and I love this one. It is brilliant for just padding out your auction house with some high based TBC items, and overall I find this to be just in general a really good gold farm, especially if you're trying to get into transmog. And you know I like to talk about materials, transmog and battle pets in one of these videos, and thus Manats is just a prize peg for just getting a hold of a decent amount of gold worth of value for transmog selling, and it pads it out really well. So if you did an hour of Ramparts and an hour of Manats, you're definitely going to have a nice starting point for just transmog selling in general. This is why it's made it on this list, as I felt that Manats was a little bit underutilized compared to Hellfire Ramparts, so we're chucking that in there right there because it will do pretty much the same thing, but will give you a variety of higher based TBC items that do not drop from Ramparts, so you can get the best of both worlds with both those two farms, and it just works and scales very well, especially for transmog farming. Now, coming in at number 7, we have the Volatile Fire 5-man gold farm. This one is located within the Twilight Highlands on this side of the map. You'll be wanting to take out all of these mobs, and if you actually get a 5-man group and place them in a pentagram around the area of the burning building, you'll be able to actually burn down these mobs fairly easily. I remember doing this back in 2020 with all of with my subscribers, and this worked out really well for the gold making challenge, as basically, once you actually stand there, you just have to make a macro for /target unbound and then just /cast moonfire, and you just keep spamming it with the potion of treasure finding, of course, because you want those tiny treasure chests to increase your gold per hour. But alongside that, if you really are just going ham at it, you're going to get a decent chunk of gold. They're all materials, they all sell really, really well, especially Volatile Fire. It will sell very fast, as it's used in a load of old world based crafting. And with that being said, it's such an easy gold farm, especially in a 5-man group, because these ones hyper spawn. The more mobs you kill per second on this, the more faster they will respawn. That means it's perfect for a 5-man group, and that is why it works out really well. Obviously, on the video clip, I'm farming it solo, but it still works solo. You're just going to get a little bit less gold for your time invested because you're technically doing all of the work. With that being said, it just works incredibly well, especially when you're just trying to get a decent chunk of gold very fast, and a material-based farm like this in a 5-man group just scales very well in the grand scheme of things. Just don't forget the potion of treasure finding, because you'll be leaving gold on the table, and I really don't want you guys to be doing that, especially if you're going to put in an hour's worth with 5 other people. Now, coming in at number 8, we have the Tempest Keep raid. Now, I like raid pets all in all. They work really well for scalability when it comes towards alts, and Tempest Keep is no exception. Tempest Keep, you have 3 battle pets in order to get a hold of. You have the Pocket Reaver, you also have the Phoenix Hawk Hatchling, and you have the prize pick, which is the Lesser Void Caller. And that one comes from the Void Sorcerer boss on the right hand side of the raid. Basically, all of these battle pets tend to sell relatively fast, which is brilliant, especially for battle pets. And the one thing I will say is the Phoenix Hawk Hatchling doesn't sell for an awful lot of gold. However, your Pocket Reaver and your Lesser Void Caller, level those up to level 25, because they like triple, quadruple in price, and it is pretty much across most servers, so it works really well, especially when you're trying to just gain a decent chunk of gold overall. Coincidentally, you could just buy them off the auction house and power level them on Squirt Day as well, which is maybe something I do as well, but that's not the point. The point is a really easy gold farm in order to do. You gain a load of transmog from this, as there are a load of trash mobs within this, and a load of cloth, which you can then also craft those into braces and DE for extra additional gold. Following on to that, if you don't already, you can also get the Ashes of Alar mount from Kelthus right at the end. If you defeat him, you have a chance of getting a hold of that mount as well. So it's one of those things, like if you're already going for the mount, you might as well do it all and get a hold of the battle pets and make some gold while you're going for that mount. And that's why I like this gold farm. Now, typically I own the Ashes of Alar now, and I actually remember getting this one in Legion. I got it on my Warlock, and I didn't even realise until the next day when I logged on. I went, oh, okay. But alongside that, the Lesser Void Caller definitely level to level 25 and sell on for additional gold, because it works very well. Following on to our next gold farm at number 9 is the 𝐆𝐀𝐿 Battle Pet. The 𝐆𝐀𝐿 Battle Pet goes from anywhere from around about 4,000 to 6,000 gold each, and you'll be wanting to go over to the WoD base zone of Shadowmoon Valley. Here on the map right now, you'll be able to go over here and just take out all of the Makura. These ones all have a chance of dropping the 𝐆𝐀𝐿 Battle Pet, and within around an hour's worth of farming, I'm able to get around about 2 to 3 of these, so it actually works out as a gold per hour. A really good gold per hour, especially only if I come up pot luck and just lose out on the RNG. For me at this moment in time, it's around about 18,000 gold, and that works out quite well, especially for that. Actually, coincidentally, level those to 25 as well using Squirt Day or just a basic leveling method, because these battle pets tend to sell really well, especially when you're just trying to build out a decent chunk of gold on the auction house. The 𝐆𝐀𝐿 sells relatively fast. It goes for a decent gold per hour, and you get around about 2 to 3 per hour from this. It's a very easy gold farm, and it is quite reliable, especially if you just keep relisting. Remember, battle pets tend to sell slower than materials, and transmog sells slower than battle pets. So hereby, battle pets are great because they usually fetch a high priced value, more so than materials, and they are on par with transmog, so it works really well when you're trying to get a decent chunk of gold on the auction house and in your bags in a faster rate than you would conventionally with transmog. This is why I like this gold farm, and since WoD, the greens from this, some of these actually go for a stupid amount of gold, so keep an eye out using either the Worth It Recorder to log and record your farms, or Loot Appraiser, and you can just have a look and see which type of greens you can also sell on as well, as a side note, because I picked up quite a few that were actually quite valuable, and I was like, oh, these actually have a good sell rate, so I'll sell those on as well. Coming into our last gold farm on the list, we're going to go all the way over towards the Hosen Ravagers within the Jade Forest. They have a chance of dropping an item called the Tome of Polymorph Monkey. Now, I've done a video on all of the tomes of Polymorph now. This one is literally the last one for farming, and I'm chucking it in here because it's going to do my head in, basically, if I don't talk about it, and I've talked about the others. This is a mage specific gold farm. You have a very high drop chance for this because all the Hosens are considered monkeys, and that means that you have a chance of getting a hold of that Tome of Polymorph with your mage. These ones can be done in a 5-man group. There is a strong amount of transmog you get from this as well from Mr. Pandaria that actually sells for quite a decent chunk of gold as well as all of that. And I must say, Tome of Polymorph for me doesn't sell that much on my auction house, but I jumped over to a couple of my other servers that I'm on, and it really does vary in price. So it can go from anywhere from around about like a couple of thousand gold all the way up to like 20 odd K for this, and I generally will get around about 2 to 3 per hour for this gold farm. And if you're farming in a group, and these ones actually respawn faster, they're on a hyper spawn type effort. If you shove a 5-man group here, you can farm these out incredibly fast and gain a load of mop based transmog as well, and Spirits of Harmony to sell faster as well as all that, as that one is a material. Alongside that, that is everything I've talked about for this week. If you want to join the Worth It beta, or you want to get early access to any additional gold making resources, content, videos, and my TSM profile, please feel free to go over towards the Patreon. Other than that, have an awesome rest of the day, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be soon.